He only wanted her, the mountain man who fell for the obese girl no one else wanted. Nora had always been good at pretending. Pretending not to hear laughter behind her. Pretending her heart wasn't fragile. Pretending she wasn't exhausted, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, after years of being told, in one way or another, that she was less beautiful, less desirable, less worthy. But that morning at the city cafe, the morning that pushed her over the edge, her pretending shattered. She had just ordered her usual latte when a group of nearby girls giggled. She didn't turn at first. She had learned to ignore whispers the way some people ignore car alarms, background noise, annoyingly familiar. But then one of the girls said it loudly, clearly, uncaringly. "Honestly, I'd die if I looked like her. Who'd ever want someone like that?" The words hit Nora with physical force. Her chest tightened. Her breath caught. Her cheeks flushed. She stiffened as shame buried itself under her skin. But she didn't respond. She didn't cry. She didn't stand up for herself. She simply gathered her coffee, walked outside, and forced her feet forward until she reached her car and finally let out the breath she'd been holding. She didn't cry right then. She didn't have the energy. But something inside her cracked. Something old, something weary, something tired of hurting. And 2 hours later, with her bags packed and a resignation email sent to her boss, she boarded a bus heading north, toward a place she had only read about, Silverpine Valley, a mountain lodge town hidden deep in evergreen forests. She didn't know exactly what she was looking for. But she knew she had to leave before she disappeared into a version of herself she wouldn't survive. She just needed peace, distance, silence, maybe. A place where no one knew her name or her past. A place where she could exist, just exist, without being someone's joke. She had no idea her life was about to collide with a man who saw her differently from the world. A man who didn't just notice her. He watched her like she was someone worth watching. The lodge. The bus wheezed as it pulled into the tiny clearing that passed for a bus stop. Snow blanketed the ground in soft, thick layers, and pine trees wrapped the valley in emerald silence. The air smelled clean, sharp, cold, untouched. Nora stepped down carefully, adjusting her coat. Her winter clothes tugged at her body, reminding her of every insecurity she carried. She clutched her bags, glanced around nervously, and spotted a dusty pickup truck waiting nearby. A cheerful older woman hurried toward her. "You must be Nora," she said warmly, pulling her into a surprising hug. "I'm June, owner of Silverpine Lodge. So glad you made it." Nora forced a smile. "Thank you for having me." "Nonsense," June said, waving a hand. "Your resume was wonderful. And we needed the help." June reached for Nora's bag, but someone else took it. A tall shadow stepped forward. Nora looked up, and up. He was enormous in quiet, effortless ways. Broad shoulders beneath a dark flannel jacket. Strong forearms. Long legs. Thick hair that brushed his jawline, the color of roasted coffee. A neatly trimmed beard. And eyes, hazel with flecks of gold, that looked at her like he was studying a real person, not an object. "This is Elias," June said. "Our mountain guide. Or as the tourists like to call him, the man who lives half wild." "Elias, meet Nora." Elias didn't smile. He didn't tease. He didn't offer a handshake or even a nod. He simply said, in a low, quiet voice, "Welcome." But the way he said it made something warm flicker in her chest. Like he meant it. Like her arrival mattered. He carried both her bags effortlessly, stepping ahead toward the truck. Nora blinked. Most men avoided touching her things, some even hesitated to sit beside her on buses or benches. But this man acted as if nothing about her was unpleasant, nothing was too heavy, nothing about her existence was inconvenient. It was disarming. She slid into the truck beside June, and they started toward the lodge. Elias drove behind them on an ATV, bags strapped to the back. June chatted the whole way, a bright, bubbly storyteller. "Oh, you'll love it here. We've got tourists in winter for skiing, spring hikers, summer campers, busy year-round. You'll be helping with the kitchen, guest check-ins, and whatever else comes up. Nothing too heavy, don't worry." Nora relaxed a little. "I'm happy to help however I can." June beamed. "I can tell. You have one of those warm faces." Elias noticed too. Nora stiffened. What?" June giggled. "He's usually silent with new people. But he looked at you like he actually saw you. That's rare. Heat rushed to Nora's cheeks. She stared out the window. She didn't believe it. Men didn't look at her that way. Men didn't notice her unless it was to judge. She dismissed the idea immediately. But she couldn't stop her heart from fluttering just a little. The mountain man. Silverpine Lodge was cozy, rustic, built from heavy logs and warm lighting. Nora settled quickly into her room and began her first week of work. It was simple, cleaning, serving meals, greeting guests. But there was one constant she hadn't expected. Elias. He appeared everywhere she went. Silent, steady, almost protective. When she carried supplies from the storeroom, he would appear, lifting heavy boxes gently from her hands. When she slipped once on icy snow, he caught her elbow before she hit the ground. His hand was big, warm, calloused, but careful, as if he feared hurting her. He didn't flirt. He didn't joke. He didn't stare at her body the way men in the city sometimes did. Instead, he looked at her the way someone looks at sunlight they didn't realize they'd been missing. He asked simple questions. Did you sleep well? Did you get breakfast? Do you need help with the firewood? But every time he spoke to her, her chest tightened, and she didn't know why. He was kind. Not pitying. Not patronizing. Just kind. And she wasn't used to it. A night of tea and truth. One evening, after a long day of lodge guests and messy snowboards tracked across floors, Nora slipped outside to sit on the bench by the frozen creek. The mountains towered around her, soft in moonlight. She hugged her coat tighter, breathing in cold air. She thought she was alone. But then boots crunched in the snow. Elias approached, carrying 2 mugs of steaming herbal tea. He sat beside her without asking. You looked like you might want this, he said simply. Nora accepted the mug, her fingers brushing his briefly. Thank you. They sat in silence for a long moment. It wasn't awkward. It felt safe. Elias finally spoke. You seem sad today. Nora let out a small, brittle laugh. I didn't realize it showed. It does, he said quietly. But not because you're weak. Because you carry too much alone. Her throat tightened. How do you know that? His eyes stayed on the snowy mountains. Because I used to do the same. His answer surprised her. What changed for you? She asked softly. He paused. Then, I met someone who saw me. Really saw me. After that, solitude didn't feel necessary. Just familiar. He turned his gaze to her. People like you, people who feel everything, pretend they're fine. But your eyes tell the truth. Her breath caught. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever looked at her like that. Is it that obvious? She whispered. Only to someone who watches. That sentence. It slipped right under her skin. You watch me? She asked, barely breathing. Elias didn't flinch. Yes. Her heart raced wildly. No man had ever admitted something like that, not about her. Not about someone like her. The whispered insults. The next day, the lodge received a new group of guests. 2 women in their 20s, pretty, loud, self-confident, looked Nora up and down with thinly veiled judgment. She ignored them. She tried, at least. Later that night, returning from the kitchen, she overheard their whispers near the porch. Have you noticed Elias keeps hanging around the big girl? I know, right? Maybe he feels sorry for her. Or maybe she begged him for attention. Guys like him would never be into someone like that. Exactly. It's obviously charity. Their laughter followed Nora like a slap. She didn't say anything. She didn't defend herself. She just walked away, heart caving inward. Once inside her room, she locked the door and sank to the floor, silent tears spilling down her cheeks. It wasn't the first time she'd heard things like that. But it hurt more now. Because part of her had started to believe, just a tiny bit, that Elias might actually see something in her. And those girls reminded her of the brutal truth she lived with daily. She wasn't someone men wanted. She was someone men mocked. She cried silently for long minutes until a gentle knock sounded. Nora. Elias's voice. Deep. Soft. Concerned. She wiped her face. I'm fine, she said, voice cracking. But he didn't leave. I'll sit out here, he said. You don't have to open the door. Just, don't feel alone. Something inside her broke open, something tender, unguarded. She stood, walked to the door, opened it slowly. Elias was sitting on the floor, back against the wall, waiting. He stood up immediately when he saw her tear-stained face. Nora, he said quietly, who hurt you? She swallowed hard. No one. He stepped closer. Don't lie to me. She looked down. I heard what they said. The muscle in his jaw tightened. What did they say? That you're only nice to me because you feel sorry for me. That someone like you could never be interested in someone like me. Elias exhaled through his nose slowly, controlled, but she sensed anger beneath the surface. Not at her. For her. Nora, he said, voice low and steady, they're wrong. She blinked rapidly. Are they? Yes. Why? His eyes locked on hers, intense, unwavering. Because I'm drawn to you. Her heart thudded painfully. To me. Yes, he said simply. To your kindness. To your strength. To the gentleness in your voice. To the way you keep going even when the world is cruel. Her lip trembled. But my body is yours, he interrupted, firm. And I don't want anyone else's. She froze. Her breath caught. Her world tilted. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Elias continued, voice roughening as if the admission cost him something vulnerable. I watch you because I can't not watch you. You walk into a room and everything feels quieter. You make the place warmer. You make me better. Nora could barely breathe. Why was he saying this? Why to her? Why her? I'm not the kind of woman men choose, she whispered. Elias stepped closer. I'm not. Men, Nora. Silence pulsed between them. Slow, electric, real. And in that moment, standing in the dim hallway, her tears still drying on her cheeks, Nora realized something terrifying and beautiful. This man wasn't being kind. He wasn't comforting her out of pity. He wanted her, really wanted her, and she didn't know what to do with that truth. Because she had never been wanted before.